Story 1. My mother used to tell me that my father was an angel. I thought she was crazy until I saw him myself. I don't remember my mother ever being sane. From the very moment I was born, the house I lived in was filled with her madness. The tattered curtains that were never washed, the constantly running TV with all sorts of religious broadcasts, the silence that followed her nightly sobbing. But most of all, I was terrified of the icon of the Virgin Mary cracked in places, and I swear I felt her watching me. My mother always smelled of alcohol from early morning till late at night. I never saw my father, and whenever I asked about him, she answered with absolute certainty that my father was an angel. Not in the sense of being a good man, but literally a real angel. She said it with wide open, yet utterly empty and lifeless eyes. A cigarette dangled from her cracked lips as she repeated, "Your father is an angel, Michael. A real angel." I believed her, maybe when I was 5. I was happy and rushed to tell my friends who my father was. The reaction was predictable. They mocked me and teased me for years. No matter how many times my mother repeated her story about my father, no matter how many religious channels she made me watch, I stopped believing her. In my teenage years, it got worse. I was hot-tempered, stubborn, and had a terrible relationship with my mother. I openly called her crazy and begged her to tell me the truth about my father. But instead, in one of her drunken episodes, she screamed that my father was an angel, holding a cracked rosary in her hand as if she could summon him from the heavens. He burned with light when he came to me. And you, she would grab my face roughly, scratching my cheeks and chin with her nails. You carry his sacred blood. Eventually I stopped listening to her at all, let alone speaking to her. At 18, I moved to another city and fulfilled my dream. To escape the rotting house with its perpetually yellow lighting and peeling walls, and my deranged mother. Because of her, people called me crazy, mocked me about my father, and openly insulted her, which often got me into fights. My only fond memory with her is of the day we went to the beach. She held my hand, and we simply watched the sea. Everything was fine until she looked up at the sky and said, "When will you come, my love?" After moving out, I worked hard, made new friends, real, good friends. Whenever they asked about my family, I said I was an orphan. I even started drinking a little just to understand her, but not become her. I should note that I was a firm atheist, unlike my mother's fanatical religiosity. But I'm not writing to tell you how I ran away from home and my insane mother. I'm writing to tell you how I came back. After I moved out, I felt something watching me. I chalked it up to stress. Even went to a psychologist, but that strange feeling never left, like something was protecting me. Once, a car nearly hit me, but I managed to jump away just in time. Another time I stopped walking without knowing why. And a second later, a massive branch fell from a tree that could have easily crushed my skull. One night, she left me 11 voice messages. Some were just sobs that turned into screams. Others were drunken mumblings. But the last message, sent half an hour after the others, made my skin crawl. My mother's voice was low and barely audible, as if she were hiding somewhere. "He's coming for you. Your father. He came. Specifically for you." I couldn't take my eyes off the phone. I couldn't even move. I had cut off all contact with her for a year. Maybe 2. I lost count. The next morning I got a call from the hospital. They said my mother had been admitted to the psychiatric ward, and I barely held back laughter. Not because it was funny, it wasn't, but because it was inevitable. The nurse who called said, "We need you to come and collect her things. At the house. We found something strange." Very reluctantly, I returned to that same house, still reeking of damp wood and despair, just like before. Her belongings were packed into a clear plastic container. There were old photographs where she was still young and beautiful, smiling sincerely, a smile I never saw on her again. Zrenia. There were other items, but 2 stood out to me. A worn, large journal and a massive black feather, thick and strange. She'd kept both on a little shelf above her bed. Besides that, the walls of her room were covered with bizarre symbols, written in chalk and ash. But most striking of all was a figure with wings and outstretched arms, apparently drawn in blood. I never saw any of this as a child. My knees trembled when the nurse told me that all the symbols and the figure had been hidden behind furniture and posters. I barely managed to sleep and woke up from the cold. The window was open, though I clearly remembered closing all the windows. There were claw marks on the windowsill. Everything inside me clenched. My breath caught, and for the first time, I began to consider my mother's words. When I lay on the bed, I couldn't sleep because of scratching noises in the guest room. They weren't rats. The sound was rhythmic and deliberate, like someone was carving something. I didn't sleep a wink until morning. The sounds and the smell of her clothes in the air transported me back to childhood, when I curled up terrified by a thunderstorm. Back then, she told me nothing would happen to me, because my father would always be with me. I knew all the answers were in the journal. When I picked it up, it felt like it burned my hands, and yet I started reading. It began innocently enough. Notes about my birth, how she cried the first time she saw me, that my eyes reminded her of his. She never mentioned his name. Then things got much stranger. Somewhere between love letters to my father, praises of his divine beauty, and descriptions of strange and horrifying rituals on how to summon angels. He came to me again, said he would take our son despite saying before he wouldn't. He said he loves only me, and I should ascend with him. The neighbours saw him, heard him in the attic. No one talks to me anymore. They know who fathered my child. He said he'll come for our son soon, that the time has come. How could he do this? He promised I would go instead of our son. The last entry read, "I won't let him take our son. I'll do everything to stop him." I slammed the journal shut, fighting back nausea. My hands trembled with fear. I dropped everything and left the house. That night I dreamed of wings. Not like the angel wings from Sunday school books, but huge and broken, with coal-like tips and golden roots. A distorted, wrong voice repeated my name. Michael. I woke to the sound of feathers sliding across the floor, but there were no feathers, only rising dust, and a smell like freshly cut grass and burning meat. The dreams continued, each time with more detail, not just wings now, but a tall, gaunt figure with outstretched arms. It was always still. Its eyes glowed in the dark, and its voice said my name like it belonged to him. Electrical malfunctions began. Objects moved by themselves. Deep claw marks appeared on the walls. The TV turned on to static at night, and blood would drip from my nose. I didn't know where to go or what to do, so I went to a priest. The old priest sat on a bench by the altar, bent over a prayer book. The moment I entered, he tensed, sensing I hadn't come to confess. "What brings you here, my son?" "I need an answer. I need to know what to do, if my father is an angel." The priest flinched like I struck him. He closed the prayer book and stood, his knees cracking. He stared at me like he was trying to see into my soul. "Who told you that?" "My mother. He's been coming to me in dreams. I feel him watching me through mirrors. Wherever I go, I feel his gaze. I feel something changing inside me. I'm so scared, Father." He placed his hands on my shoulders. His hands were cold as gravestones. "The angel you describe is not a messenger of love. He is ancient, more terrifying. Some of them were rejected even by God. And if one of them is your father..." He didn't finish, just stepped back and crossed himself. "You must reject him, renounce him, and never ever summon or accept him. Don't look into his face if he appears. Such angels want to continue their lineage, and you will never be human again." In that moment, deep beneath my ribs, a thought stirred. Maybe I was never be a human. The dreams became reality. When I blinked, feathers floated in the air. I turned suddenly and saw his face behind the curtain. Wide, frozen eyes staring. When I got the call that my mother died of cardiac arrest, a sharp mix of smells hit me. Burned feathers, meat, cinnamon, sulphur, and cut grass. He had been here. I heard my mother's voice. She sounded like she was laughing and crying at the same time. "Michael, my beloved son, yeah, he's so proud of you. Your father finally took me with him. Don't be afraid, son. He'll take you too, and we'll finally live as a family. You'll have a more important role, don't fear. Accept it. I love you. We love you." I vomited on my pants, paralyzed by terror. The smell didn't fade. It grew stronger. My first thought was that my father killed my mother and was trying to kill me too using hallucinations. I tried to flee the house, but the TV turned on. The screen flickered, then static appeared. White noise, a chaotic swarm of dots. The static became rhythmic, like breathing, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud. Then the image changed. A silhouette emerged from the blur. At first just an outline, then wings appeared just like in my dreams. Its head was tilted, face obscured by distorted light. It moved. From inside the TV, coming closer with each frame, the screen lines warped as if he were pushing out, tearing through space. I stepped back, my heart pounding. Then, through the crackle of static, a distorted, inhuman voice said, "You are ready." The screen convulsed, and from its centre a hand emerged, long clawed fingers, shimmering with both blinding light and shadow. The hand reached for me. I couldn't scream or move. I was frozen as he fully emerged, like a nightmare being born. He only vaguely resembled a man. His face was mine, but twisted, terrifying, as the priest warned. He was corrupted by time and something unearthly. Tall and thin, wrapped in wings that shimmered like metal, his voice sounded like wind across a grave. "We're one family again, Michael," I passed out. I don't know how much time passed. Hours, days maybe, but I woke up on the bathroom floor in a pool of my own blood. I coughed, spitting blood, and felt something pulsing under my skin. My blood was changing. When I looked in the mirror, my eyes no longer looked like mine. They were his. A few hours later, I felt excruciating pain in my back, like something trying to tear its way out. All food began to taste like ash. Later, I started hearing whispers of prayers in different languages from mirrors, pipes, and inside my own head, and always, I heard my father's voice. "Michael, you were born for ascension. I existed before the great flood. My ancient blood flows in you. You will have many tasks, but you will succeed, because I am with you. Always." I no longer needed sleep. My back slowly tore open as black stubs of wings burst through the flesh. He came to me yesterday, showing burning skies and oceans of wings, a throne made of eyes. His voice sounded like a choir of thousands. He said he would teach me to walk between dimensions once the wings were fully grown. According to him, they will break free within 2 days. My skin peels in flakes like ash, and my teeth fall out immediately, replaced by sharper ones. I no longer feel pain. I stopped praying for it to stop whenever I prayed. My tongue burned to ash and regrew. I stopped being afraid. The fear vanished on its own when I felt the air bend around me. I accepted it. I see other angels now like my father. They welcome me into their ranks. My mother stands among them, crying with joy. Now, as I type this, I saw the future, where I shine with light like my father. I now stand in fire, and soon I will continue the bloodline. Men. Story 2, I work in waste disposal. Last week I found a locker that should have been left shut. I've worked for the City of London Waste and Sanitation Division for almost a decade. It's not glamorous, but it pays decently, and I don't mind physical work. The job keeps you grounded. You learn a lot about people by what they throw away. But there are some things you're not meant to find, and last week I found one of them. Every few months we do what's called a deep site audit. Basically, we clean out and inventory the private hire storage units managed by the council. These are old brick sheds hidden behind housing estates, originally coal storage from the post-war years. Now people rent them to stash junk, old bikes, broken garden furniture, busted kettles. Half the time, no one even remembers what's inside. This site was in Deptford, behind a row of 1950s tower blocks. I'd never been there before. The area's being gentrified, but these blocks were untouched. Grey concrete, windows covered in tin foil, the smell of burnt grease in the stairwells. We had a list of 10 units to check. 9 were boring. Then we got to Unit 14. I still have the photo I took. The rust on the padlock had bled into the latch like a wound, and there was something about the air around it, like it hadn't been opened in a very, very long time. My co-worker Sanj said, "Looks like a squat." I laughed. "More like a tomb." We pried the lock open, and immediately something smelled wrong. Not rotting exactly, more like metal and old paper, like someone had buried books in a wet basement for years. The unit was 6 feet deep and 4 feet wide. No light. We shone our torches inside. It wasn't full of rubbish. In fact, it was unnervingly clean. There was a metal chair bolted to the floor, a small desk with a notebook, a digital recorder, and a tall grey locker like the kind you'd see in an old police station. On the wall was a city map. South London. Pins stuck into random streets. No pattern I could make out. I said, "Looks like someone was living in here." Sanj said nothing. He was staring at the locker. It had 3 deadbolts, all engaged. One had a tag attached. "Do not open, no matter what it says." I laughed nervously. "You think it's some kind of prank?" Sanj shook his head. I stepped closer. The locker was vibrating slightly. A low, almost inaudible hum, like a washing machine mid-cycle, except it wasn't running on power. We stood there a full minute listening. Then something inside knocked. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. Sanj backed up immediately. "We need to call this in." "I'm not calling anyone," I said. "It's probably a rat, or air pressure, or something stupid." He looked at me like I was mad, and I was, a little. I unbolted the locker. The metal was warm. Not just warm, hot, like it had been sitting in the sun, except it hadn't. I opened the door. Empty. At first, just a shelf with a folded jacket, an old dictaphone, and a plastic folder labelled Number 17. Holloway. Then something moved. At the back of the locker, hidden in the shadow, there was a mirror. But it didn't reflect me. It showed a different room. Dingy, yellow-lit. A single mattress on the floor. A pile of notebooks. On the wall, something written in black marker. "Do not acknowledge it." Then the light in the locker flickered, and the mirror went dark. Sanj was already halfway out of the shed. He told me later he'd felt something in his head, like static crawling under his skull. I closed the locker, tried to convince myself we'd seen an old prank, a trick mirror, something explainable. But here's where it gets worse. I took the plastic folder. I don't know why. Curiosity, stupidity, both. Inside were printed police reports, all unofficial, all unlogged, each one stamped internal only. Most were missing persons cases, all unsolved, all from the last 25 years. Some names I recognised from the news. One stood out. Case 98/2117. Eleanor, 17. Last seen near Holloway. Reported hearing voices behind the walls, psychiatric history unclear. Vanished from inside locked flat. No forced entry. No witnesses. Inside the file was a drawing, done in pencil, childlike. It showed a tall, thin figure with no face, standing inside what looked like a metal locker, same one I'd opened. On the back of the drawing someone had written, "It never speaks first. Don't answer it. Don't acknowledge. Don't open the door again." The next day I tried to report what we found. Management told me Unit 14 had been condemned years ago after flooding. No one was renting it. No access had been given. The entry log showed it hadn't been opened since 2007. They told me to bin anything inside and move on. Sanj quit 2 days later. Said he couldn't stop hearing knocking. I tried to laugh it off. Tried to forget. Then, last night, I got home and found a single item in my hallway. A dictaphone. Not mine. I pressed play. There was only one sound. Knocking. 3 times. Slow. Deliberate. Then a voice. My voice. You open the door. You let it see you. Now it's waiting. I haven't slept since. And this morning I heard a knock at my front door. But when I looked through the peephole, there was no one there. Just a mirror. And it didn't show my hallway. It showed that room again. That mattress. That writing. Do not acknowledge it. Story 3. My work computer knows things about me. It shouldn't. I've never been one for ghost stories or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy, 29, working a boring office job in a mid-sized city. But something's been happening at work and I can't explain it. I'm posting here because I need to get this out and maybe someone can tell me I'm not losing my mind. This started a month ago and it's getting worse. I work in customer support for a tech company, one of those open-plan offices with glass walls and free coffee. My desk is in a corner, and I spend most of my day on my work computer, answering emails and troubleshooting software issues. It's a standard Dell desktop, nothing fancy, locked down by IT so we can't install anything or mess with settings. About a month ago, I noticed something weird. I'd left my computer on overnight by mistake, and when I came in the next morning, there was a Word document open on the screen. It was blank except for one line. "You forgot to call Mom last night." I stared at it for a good minute. I'd forgotten to call my mum. She'd texted me asking why I didn't pick up. But I hadn't told anyone at work about it, and I definitely didn't type that. I checked the document properties, created at 2:17 a.m, no author listed. My first thought was a prank, but my co-workers aren't the type, and nobody else has my login password. IT confirmed the computer hadn't been accessed remotely. I deleted the file, logged out and tried to forget it. A few days later, it happened again. Another Word doc, this time saying, "You're out of milk." I'd noticed that morning that my fridge was empty, but again, I hadn't mentioned it to anyone. The file was created at 3:04 a.m. I started feeling uneasy, like someone was watching me. I checked my desk for hidden cameras, even looked under the keyboard. Nothing. I asked it to run a malware scan, and they found nothing unusual. My manager, Karen, thought I was overreacting and told me to stop leaving my computer unlocked, even though I hadn't. Then things got weirder. One night, I was working late, catching up on emails. Around 8 p.m, my screen flickered, and a text file popped up. It read, "Why did you lie to Sarah about the party?" My stomach dropped. Sarah's my girlfriend, and I told her I was too tired to go to her friend's birthday party the previous weekend, when really I just didn't like the crowd. I'd never told anyone, not even my best friend. The file was time-stamped that exact moment. I shut the computer down, grabbed my stuff and left. I barely slept that night. I started keeping a log of these incidents, hoping to find a pattern. The messages kept coming, always at odd hours, always about something personal. "You shouldn't have skipped the gym today. You left your keys on the counter again. You're still thinking about that fight with Dad, aren't you?" Each one hit harder, like the computer was digging into my thoughts. I stopped using it for anything personal. No emails, no browsing, nothing. But the messages didn't stop. Last week I decided to test it. I thought about something specific, something I'd never said out loud. The time I cheated on a math test in high school and still feel guilty about it. I didn't write it down or tell anyone, just held the thought in my head while sitting at my desk. That night, I stayed late on purpose. At 9:13 p.m, a new text file appeared. "You never told Mr. Jenkins about the test." I swear I almost screamed. I yanked the power cord out of the wall and sat there shaking. I've tried everything. I'd reinstalled the operating system, but the messages came back the next day. I swapped computers with a co-worker, but the new one started doing the same thing within hours. I even took a few days off, thinking maybe I was stressed, but when I came back there was a file waiting. Running away won't help. I'm scared to sit at my desk now. I keep my monitor turned off when I'm not using it, but I can still hear the hard drive whirring sometimes, like it's working on something. The worst part is last night. I was home, not even at work, and my phone buzzed with an email from my work account. I hadn't logged in since leaving the office. The subject was blank and the body just said, "I see you right now, I live alone." I checked every room, every closet, even the damn crawl space. Nothing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I haven't gone back to work since. I don't know what this is. A hacker? Some kind of AI glitch? Or something else? I'm thinking about quitting, but I'm scared it'll follow me. Has anyone dealt with something like this? I'm out of ideas, and I'm starting to think this thing knows more about me than I do. Please, if you have any advice, I'm all ears. I just want this to stop.